Hey guys, Monochrome here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Genuinely good to have you. All right, today I have a Smith & Wesson product for you that is not a firearm. Hold on. Before you click off the video, hear me out. Now, for those of us out there who are knowledgeable about firearms and the various different firearms companies out there, Smith & Wesson is more than a little bit controversial considering their past. However, nowadays, they make some excellent firearms, especially their M&P line semi-auto pistols. Just absolutely excellent, high quality. And Smith & Wesson has a bunch of other products in their lineup, including knives. Most of Smith & Wesson's other products that are not firearms, generally not worth acquiring. Just my humble opinion. But today, I've got this for you. Here's the box, and it doesn't have a name. There's the model designation, SWFR2S. That's what this is. And taking a look at this, what you have here is a rather unassuming looking rescue knife. And this is the sort of thing that if you're a prepper, you need to have one in your bag of tricks or your work bag, possibly your bug out bag. Generally, these types of knives have colored aluminum handles, seatbelt cutter feature, as well as a glass breaker tip. Now, the glass breaker tip is usually not spring-loaded, and that's the case here. This glass breaker tip, which is squared off in profile, not spring-loaded. Just, if you're going to use this, be sure to wear gloves, otherwise you're going to injure your hand. Heavy-duty work gloves definitely recommended. The seatbelt cutter, that looks like a razor blade just molded in there. And as you can see, mine has a little bit of surface corrosion on it. I think this is just an ordinary razor blade, but a little bit of surface corrosion doesn't affect its use as a seatbelt cutter. Let's take a look at the blade, which is a little bit unusual. One hand opening. Now, for some bizarre reason, this Smith & Wesson Extreme Ops model is listed on Smith & Wesson's website as a drop point blade shape. No, that's clearly a modified Tonto. You get serrations. Those are going to be useful for cutting through a seat belt. Maybe one that's tangled up and the seatbelt cutter feature isn't getting the job done. Now, I would have preferred a blade that was downswept just to make it a bit easier, because if you have someone passed out in the driver's seat, especially a heavy-set individual, you got to be careful when you're using the blade, especially the serrations, cutting them out of their tangled seatbelt, because you could accidentally stab them. Yeah, heat of the moment, you're trying to save a life, you might accidentally stab them. And even though there are Good Samaritan laws in place, I have noticed that over the years, yeah, they're not quite as enforced as they should be. Let me just say that. So just be very careful. A curved blade or a blunted blade would have been better. But this is what Smith & Wesson chose to go with on this particular extreme ops model. As you can see, modified tanto. And yes, there will be specs in the description box below, as usual, for those of you interested in measurements, that sort of thing. It is a double-sided thumb stud. However, with this literally one position carry clip, right hand tip down carry only, one position clip, which you can remove if you want to, or leave it on there, but that's about all you can do with the clip. With the clip where it is, and with the liner lock mechanism being along this handle scale, yeah, I have no clue why they gave this thing ambidextrous thumb studs, because you're not going to be able to use the one on this side. On this side, it's different. However, on my example, I can't flick the knife open. Yep, that's what happens each and every single time on my example. This is the sort of thumb stud where you place your thumb on the side of the stud and you ride it open. And that locking mechanism is a surprisingly well-made, at least on my example, liner lock. Engagement is about, well, I'd say almost 50%. I'd prefer it if it was 30 or 40%, but not bad. Not bad at all. 50%. Rock solid. No side to side. No up and down blade play. Absolutely rock solid. Now, as far as this traditionally aluminum handle scale, no, not on this model. What you're looking at here is a very comfortable rubberized handle scale on both sides. Yep. These handle scales, hard rubber. Not completely, but I'd say almost there. I have handled knives with far harder rubber handles than this one. In fact, so hard that just by feel alone, I'd say they were well-checkered plastic. Looking at you, Sog. But yeah, even though these are hard rubber handle scales, they have just a tiny bit of softness to them. Just a tiny bit. Don't mistake it. Just a tiny, tiny bit of softness to them. The tiniest bit. But it's good enough that in hand, this is an extremely comfortable knife. How comfortable? Well, out of all the knives in my collection, if I had to pick the one that had the most comfortable handle for use in hand, yeah, you're looking at it. Not even joking. Not even joking. I mean, is this a high quality emergency/rescue knife? No. No. But then again, none of them are. These are built to a price point, although the Smith & Wesson one is, I'd say, a little bit pricier than usual at MSRP $40, although you should find it a bit cheaper online at other places other than Smith & Wesson's official website. But the MSRP is $40. Still, you get a bit of checkering here, not too aggressive, but it's there. You can feel it. And overall, this handle really blew me away. Now, keep in mind, guys, I collect knives and I have hundreds of pieces in my collection, but wow. Yeah. The contouring of this handle, the handle material, the length of the handle, this might not look like it, especially with that seatbelt cutter on the back end. This is literally the most comfortable handle out of all the knives in my collection. Does that mean I'm going to EDC this thing on a regular basis? Well, no, not with that one position pocket carry clip in the wrong position for me, not with a thumb stud opener that I have to ride open instead of being able to flick it, but just the handle. This thing really surprised me. Now, some of you might be saying, well, if the blade is a bit stiff to open, why not just adjust the pivot pin? Well, that's why not. I mean, yes, I can find a star wrench and I can mess with the pivot pin, but clearly when the company decided to go with that type of pivot pin, they really don't want people trying to loosen it up, open it up. You could if you wanted to. I would advise against it, though. So overall, what do I think of this open pillar rescue / emergency knife? First of all, if you don't have one in your collection, if you're a prepper, if you're someone who just wants to be prepared, you want to be ready, you should have at least one in your bag of tricks. Absolutely. You need to have one. Again, I would have preferred if the tip wasn't something you would find on a typical tactical folding knife, because this is meant to be a rescue blade. I would prefer it if that tip wasn't there, if this knife was blunted in case you need to cut through a tangled seat belt, or if it had a downswept curved tip. However, it is what it is. The liner lock on mine is quite stiff to disengage, but I don't consider that an issue at all. The glass breaker tip works effectively, although, yeah, put on a pair of work gloves before using it. Otherwise, just deal with the fact that you're going to cut up the bottom of your hand. And the razor blade, yeah, if a seatbelt isn't tangled up, that's going to work. Keep in mind, though, that is an ordinary razor blade. And even though it looks as though this entire portion here, incorporating the blade and the glass breaker tip, even though it looks as though it can be removed, honestly, I haven't tried it. so I can't say one way or another. And I'm really not sure what type of razor blade Smith & Wesson uses. Judging by the shape, it doesn't look like a standard one. But again, with a rescue tool like this, you're not meant to be using that seatbelt cutter on a regular basis. This is the sort of thing where you use it maybe a couple of times at most, and then you get yourself a new knife. Yeah, if you're constantly using that seatbelt cutter to save lives, oh my goodness, what type of war zone are you located in? Seriously. The thumb studs themselves are comfortable. They do have a couple of small ridges that you can feel. But again, this is not the type of knife you flick open. This is the type that you ride open. Lock up, solid, reliable, no issues there. Love, love, love the rubberized grip. I can't believe how comfortable this thing is in hand. A rescue knife like this one is not an EDC sort of thing, or it is if you count work bag, sling bag, or EDC bag and having one of this in there as a regular EDC knife. It definitely has its uses, and it could save a life, and quite frankly, maybe even yours. I wouldn't advise tossing this into a center console with a bunch of junk and crap, but yeah, perhaps the glove box. Make sure it's not locked. Then again, the way every car maker is making their brand new models today, they don't even bother putting a damn lock on the glove box. Have you guys noticed that? Yeah. So slip this into a glove box with maybe the owner's manual for the car as the only other thing in there. And you have something where, yeah, you can smash out your driver's side window if you need to escape. If you're fiddling around with the seatbelt, cut through it and get out of there. Yeah. This is a rescue knife that could easily end up rescuing you or a family member who's in the car with you once you escape. Very useful. Every prepper should own at least one. Doesn't have to be one from Smith & Wesson, doesn't have to be this exact model, but everyone should own at least one. And this particular model is a surprisingly good one. Surprisingly good. And that's saying quite a bit about a Smith & Wesson product that isn't a firearm. All right, guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I do recommend this, and I'm a bit surprised that I'm recommending a Smith & Wesson product that's not a firearm, but I do recommend this. Absolutely. Okay, guys, that's it for today. Please stay safe out there because unfortunately, it's still dangerous and probably will be for a long time. Not gonna lie. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon.